It's a whole experience, and it's so much food. Oh my gosh, it is so much food. So go on an empty stomach. Welcome back to Sunday Sofa Time on the very unofficial travel guides. My name is Morgan, and this week we're gonna do Norwegian Cruise Lines A to Z. It is Sunday, November 10th, and I'm glad you're here so we can do this together. I did it last week as well. Last week we did Royal Caribbean A to Z. It is like a challenge or a format where you take a subject and go through the alphabet and say something that begins with every letter of the alphabet that relates to the subject. Did I really need to explain it? I don't know, but I did. Like I said, last week we did Royal Caribbean, and a lot of people were writing comments about it and sort of playing along. And this week we're gonna do Norwegian Cruise Line. And once again, I'm gonna need your help. There are a couple of letters that I couldn't come up with anything that was like really relevant. I mean, you'll see what I mean. But what I want to try to do is for every letter talk about something that either I've experienced or that I know about and not just, like Google it. You know what I mean? We begin the list like the alphabet begins with A, and I had to sort of switch it around because I wanted to talk about the pride of America. So the pride of America is Norwegian's cruise ship that only cruises to Hawaii. It is stationed in Hawaii and it just cruises around the Hawaiian Islands. Haven't been on it yet. I haven't been to Hawaii yet. Have you guys been to Hawaii? Do you think I should go? It's certainly something that interests me, and I would love to visit Disney's Aulani resort there. But I think that's a topic for a different video. So let's move on to B. And for B, I want to talk about the Norwegian Bliss. So, Norwegian Bliss is a sister of the Norwegian Escape, which we have cruised on, and they have some similar design things, but what makes the Bliss really special is that they have go-karts on the top of it. Go-karts. So, if you like to do that kind of thing, or if you're cruising with younger people who are like, oh, I don't want to go on a cruise, it's going to be boring, you might want to consider the Norwegian Bliss. Moving on to C, and another thing I had to flip around, and C is for key, or K, and Norwegian's private island, or private part of an island, is called Great Stirrup Key, and I haven't been there. However, from Coco Key, which is Royal Caribbean's private island, you can see Great Stirrup Key. And when we were on Coco Key, we looked over and there was a Norwegian ship parked over there, so all sorts of people having fun on private islands at the same time. And I am currently not one of them. All right, letter D. And for me, in relation to Norwegian Cruise Line, D stands for drink package. If you like to have a cocktail, if you like to drink beer, if you are into adult beverages, Norwegian Cruise Line is usually a very good option because they do a lot of packages where the drinks are included in the price of your cruise. And it's almost always, in fact, I would go so far as to say that it is always less expensive than cruising on Royal Caribbean and buying their drink package on top of the cruise fare. E is for the Norwegian Epic, the first of the really big mega ships. And when it was built, it was the largest cruise ship. I'm getting sick of this. In the world. It's like an addiction. I know I have to stop doing it, but then every time I get to a point where I need to say it, it just comes out. I have cruised on the Epic twice, or if you're from America, twice. It's the only cruise ship I've ever been on twice, and I am absolutely not opposed to cruising on it a third time. As you all know, as we've talked about enough, the only downside of the Norwegian Epic is the strange bathrooms in the cabins. Moving on to F, and an important thing, a concept that Norwegian developed, it's called Freestyle Cruising, and this is something I really don't want to talk about it for 10 minutes, but one thing that is really different about it, at least in comparison to the way things used to be on most other cruise lines, where you had set dining times and you had to pick if you either wanted to eat dinner at like 6:30 or 8:30. Norwegian did away with all those and created this freestyle concept with many different dining options where if you wanted to, you can make a reservation and go to dinner in the main dining room, but You could also go to a plethora of other restaurants included in the price of your cruise, and without a reservation, just show up. And it's something that I really, really appreciated over the old style of like Royal Caribbean. However, Royal is changing it up as well. Moving on to G for the Norwegian Getaway, a great big ship from Norwegian, and also one of my favorite cruises that I can remember. Marcus and I were on the Getaway, and we cruised down to like the Virgin Islands and Bahamas, and it was the only cruise I've ever been on where there were fireworks as part of the cruise, like out at sea. And I wonder why more cruise lines don't do that, because it was just something really special. I think they do it on all Disney cruises, don't they? But the Norwegian Getaway is a fantastic, huge ship with a lot of really cool things to do on board, and I'm going to talk about one of them in a second. H, as in Howl at the Moon. Have you guys ever been to a dueling piano show where there are two piano players on the stage with perhaps some other people playing instruments as well, and they have like fish bowls on their pianos, and then you can take a piece of paper and write like your song Wish on it and put it in one of their bowls, and then they'll take it out and maybe they'll play it and sing it for you, or maybe they'll do like a mishmash of it, or like make it a duet. And on the Getaway, and I think on almost all of the larger NCL ships, they offer Howl at the Moon. Always a really good time. Okay, moving on to I, and this one was tricky for me. It was much easier on Royal Caribbean, and if you watch that video, you'll see what it was. But I guess the closest thing I could think of was that just I love NCL. I know that's really lame. That was like my joker. I've only used one joker in this one. Well, okay, maybe 1.5. But so my joker is I love NCL. Moving on to J, as in Norwegian Jade. The Jade is one of the smaller Norwegian ships, and we did I always call it a micro cruise. We did like an overnight. It was only just one night, wasn't it? Or was it 2 nights? I believe it was 2 nights. Geez, I can't remember now. Anyways, we flew from Hamburg to London, took a transportation from London to Southampton, got on the Jade, and I think the day after or 2 days later, we disembarked the ship here in Hamburg at home. And that was a cool, like, micro cruise experience, and there are videos about that in my channel. So if you search my library for Norwegian Jade, you will find them. Okay, coming up to the first letter where I need your help, K. I couldn't come up with anything starting with K that immediately I associated with NCL. So if you have something, write it in the comments below and we can fill in the gap. For L, I had something that popped into my head immediately, and that is Le Bistro. Le Bistro. Le Bistro is like the flagship restaurant in the normal part of the NCL, the bigger NCL ships. And I say the normal part because NCL also has the Haven on a lot of their ships. Ooh, I could have done that for H. What did I take for H? Howl at the Moon. Yeah, I have more of experience with Howl at the Moon. Okay, tangent. Stay on target, Morgan. The finest, fanciest restaurant on most of the larger NCL ships is called Le Bistro, and it is like French cuisine. We have eaten there twice, I want to say, and they always have to modify the menu a little bit to make something that I'm interested in eating because I'm a picky vegetarian, and I know that gets on people's nerves. It gets on my nerves too, but hey, what do you do? But I know Marcus has always been really happy to eat there, and yeah, if you're looking for something really, really special in a sort of affordable price range, then check out Le Bistro. All right, the next letter is M, and it's making me smile again already because it's reminding me of some really funny videos I made, or at least one funny video I made. But before I tell you what it is, I'm going to put a little commercial break right here. Did it work? Tell me what your commercial was in the comments below. All right, M as in Martini Tasting. Are some of you laughing now too, now that you know what I'm going to talk about? When we did our first and only transatlantic cruise, which also happened to be my first cruise on the Norwegian Epic, we did, I think, 2 different Martini tastings. And reports differ if this is offered or not offered anymore. I think sometimes you have to ask for it specially, and it depends on which bartender is there. But at the time, in the Martini bar, you could order a Martini tasting, and you got 6 mini martinis that were all different flavors and with different mixtures, and they were all really strong. And yeah, I was funny in those videos. And I'm a responsible adult and was not driving a car and took a long nap afterwards. Okay, moving on to N, and another thing that's making me laugh is N is for Norwegia, which my friend Stacy Schuyler was disappointed to find out that not all Norwegian cruise ships stop at Norwegia. O is not only for Morgan O'Brien, who likes NCL, but it is also for the Oceans Irish Pub. Oceans is also a staple on, I think, most of, if not all, of the NCL ships, and it is an Irish pub feeling. And one thing I really like about Oceans is they also have a completely separate menu of pub or pub-like food, and it's included in the price of your cruise. So if you're sick of going to the main dining room and sick of going to the Garden Cafe buffet restaurant, you can go to Oceans and order a completely different meal, and it will be included in the price of your cruise. And they also have alternating specials as well. P, the plank. Yeah, on the Norwegian Getaway and on the Norwegian Escape, yeah, they have a gigantic ropes course on the top, so there's your R already. And part of this ropes course is the plank. And what it is this skinny piece of metal that goes way out over the side of the ship, and it's like, it's like hundreds of feet down to the ocean. And it is one of, I said on the Royal Caribbean Anthem of the Seas, the I Fly skydiving was one of the coolest things I've ever done on a cruise ship. The plank is definitely the most terrifying, thrilling thing I've ever done on a cruise ship. So another reason, if you've got thrill seekers in your family or adventurous people and you really want to impress them on the ship, check that out. Q is for Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Yeah, just like Royal Caribbean, NCL has started not only making great original production shows on their ships, but also bringing in somewhat scaled down versions of Broadway musicals. For instance, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which I saw on my second cruise on the, was it? Yeah, I think it was on my second cruise on the Epic. Marcus and I love to go to the shows, and of course we love to go see things that that maybe we didn't get a chance to see in London or New York or here in Hamburg. And yeah, I've always been really impressed with the level of quality of the NCL shows, especially when we saw Blue Man Group and we also saw Legends in concert and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and some really, really great shows. Just gonna skip over R really quickly because I already talked about the ropes course and move right on to the Sugarcane Mojito Bar. Mojito. Yes, I talked about the Martini Tasting. I talked about the drink package, and if you do have the drink package, which I think we've always had it on NCL, one place that we pay a lot of visits to is the Mojito Bar. And it's just cool to have like this hangout, and you can kind of get to know the bartenders, and then they've got a list of different mojitos, and you can sort of go through and try them all during your cruise vacation. And just something I've always really appreciated and had a good time. Although, now that I think of it, when we were on the Norwegian Jade, I think we did not visit the Sugarcane Mojito Bar because it was closed. I don't remember. I know they had one, but I know we didn't have a drink there. T is for Teppanyaki, one of these sort of, how do you describe it actually? It's like a cooking adventure experience. You are seated at a cooking station with, I think, up to 10 people maybe. Around 10 people can sit around this cooking station, and then you'll have your chef who's cooking on a very large hot plate in the middle and chopping up the vegetables, frying the eggs, frying the onions, frying the meat, throwing things in the air, catching it on his head, throwing it into your mouth. It's a whole experience, and it's so much food. Oh my gosh, it is so much food. So go on an empty stomach and be ready to stuff yourself. Yeah, I've seen that kind of restaurant, Teppanyaki, on all the NCL ships I've been on, but I don't know exactly if it is on every NCL ship. So as always, if any of this stuff seems interesting to you and you want to know if it's going to be on your upcoming cruise, or if you want to be sure to get on one of the NCL ships that offers these things, then of course ask your travel agent or check the NCL website. Coming up to another letter where I need your help. You. I couldn't think of any you that like immediately sparked a memory or something like that related to NCL. So if you've got something, it's another thing for the comments below. However, for V, I've got Vibe Beach Club. This is also a concept that I don't know how many other lines do this, but there is a special area of the pool deck that is completely closed off to everybody else, and you have to either be gifted or purchase access to it, and it's called Vibe Beach Club. And what it is, well, I guess this is a little bit different on every ship, but in the Vibe that I was in, it was 1 or 2 hot tubs, 1 or 2 of these like cool down showers, very luxurious beach loungers, and a bar. And the cool thing about it is they only sell a limited amount of tickets for it every day or for every cruise. And so if you do have entry to it, you are almost always sure to have a lounge chair and to not have to like reserve it at 6 o'clock in the morning. One disadvantage is, of course, if you want to go in the actual pool, it's not there. You only have like a hot tub. But, you know, give and take. W, another thing that I think is really cool, another thing that the first time I saw it was on NCL, and that is the Waterfront Area. So if you have been on a major cruise ship, then all of these ships, they always have a kind of promenade deck. A deck that's usually around like 5 or 6 or 7, deck 5, 6, or 7, where you can go outside and walk along the side of the ship and look down and be somewhat closer to the ocean, and that's usually where a lot of the lifeboats are as well. Well, NCL got the brilliant idea to widen that area a little bit and include outdoor seating for a lot of its bars and restaurants. Why did it take so long for cruise lines to think of that? So it's something that I think is really cool, that you can go outside and have your after dinner cocktail, watching the sun go down outside. I mean, like I said, I can't believe it took so long for this to become a thing, and I love it. Okay, X. This is my half of a wild card, and it's something that somebody suggested in last week's video, where I also couldn't come up with an X, and that is Excursions. Okay, I know it's kind of lame, but at least I've got something for this letter. So Excursions, those are like the trips that you can book where when you are in port, you will leave the ship with a guide and see something. And NCL didn't create that. I mean, every cruise line does that, but I just thought it was funny to include it as Excursions. Okay, another one. This is Y, and I couldn't think of any Y thing. So that's another thing. If you guys have something, some NCL Y word, let me know. And that leaves us at Z, and I'm going to use the same Z that I used for Royal Caribbean, and that is for zipline, because on the Escape and on the Getaway, with these gigantic rope courses on the back, part of it is also a zipline, and it goes over an even higher area of the back deck of the ship than just the ropes course. So also a really cool thing. And I mean, like I said, the larger NCL ships, they offer so many fun options, and that's another reason why I just love cruising with that cruise line. All right, we made it through another alphabet. I want your suggestions as well on what other things, specific things you guys think I should do an A to Z from, like Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot, a specific cruise ship that I've been on, like Harmony of the Seas A to Z, or Norwegian Getaway A to Z. What are some suggestions? I love to have those things to help me spark my creativity, but until then, it has come time to comment on your comments live on air. As I mentioned, last week's Sofatime was Royal Caribbean A to Z, and these comments are from that video. The first one being from Ika Mouse. Ika Mouse writes, "Neat idea, Morgan. I wouldn't mind a Norwegian A to Z, as I haven't cruised with them yet." Well, your dream has come true. Stephanie Christie writes, "Voyager of the Seas had the first rock climbing wall and ice skating rink at sea." Cool, good to know. That was a question that came up in my head when doing Royal Caribbean A to Z last week, is where was the actual first rock climbing wall at sea, and now I know. And also the first ice skating rink at sea, very cool. And Johnny Bravo writes something about Johnny Rockets. Johnny Rockets breakfast is free on Oasis class ships. Only lunch and dinner are for the upcharge. Not sure if that's the case on other ships or not. However, other people commented that as well. So yeah, Johnny Rockets is also a staple on many Royal Caribbean ships. And as we know now, if you go there for breakfast, it is included in the price of your cruise. And then depending on what ship you're on, it's either a pay one price and eat as many burgers and onion rings as you want, or an a la carte menu as well. I hope you have a great weekend, everybody, and are enjoying the fall weather. And I look forward to seeing you and hanging out with you and chatting with you next week here in front of the red sofa. And maybe it will be the next edition of A to Z. Find out next week.